Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most captivating and dramatic updates from the heart of Los Angeles. Today is a truly breathtaking day for storytelling, as we dive deep into a brand new, heart-wrenching chapter that will leave you absolutely speechless. Grab a comfortable seat and prepare your emotions, because the latest developments are nothing short of spectacular. The azure waters of the Mediterranean Sea, usually a symbol of breathtaking beauty, tranquil escapes, and the luxurious lifestyle associated with the Forrester family, have suddenly transformed into a terrifying abyss of uncertainty and despair. In a storyline twist that has sent shockwaves through the very foundation of the Forrester fashion empire, tragedy has struck with an unimaginable force. Steffy Forrester, the resilient, fiercely independent, and beloved co-CEO of Forrester Creations, has vanished. During a high-stakes European business trip meant to solidify the company's international dominance, her private flight disappeared from all radar screens, plunging into the unforgiving depths of the Mediterranean. This catastrophic aviation disaster is not just a masterstroke of dramatic television writing. It serves a dual purpose behind the scenes. This harrowing narrative provides the perfect, emotionally charged explanation for the brilliant Jacqueline MacInnes Wood's temporary departure from the canvas, allowing the actress to take her well-deserved maternity leave while leaving her iconic character's fate hanging in a torturous balance. The exact moment the devastating news reaches Los Angeles is a masterclass in atmospheric tension and emotional devastation. Ridge Forrester, a man who has weathered countless storms, corporate takeovers, and romantic entanglements, finds himself entirely unprepared for the sheer, suffocating terror of this particular phone call. The executive office of Forrester Creations, usually a bustling hub of creative energy, heated arguments, and ambitious plotting, suddenly falls into a chilling, deathly silence. When the international authorities deliver the horrifying update that communication with Steffy's plane was abruptly severed and search and rescue teams are currently scouring the open waters with no immediate signs of wreckage or survivors, Ridge's entire world shatters into a million irreparable pieces. The physical reaction of a father realizing his ultimate nightmare has come true is palpable. The phone slips from his trembling grasp, clattering against the polished hardwood floor, a sharp, echoing sound that marks the definitive end of their ordinary lives and the beginning of an agonizing waiting game. Ridge is a man defined by his protective instincts. He has always viewed himself as the impenetrable shield guarding his family from the viciousness of the outside world. Yet, in this paralyzing moment, standing thousands of miles away from the last known coordinates of his daughter's flight, he is rendered entirely powerless. The crushing weight of the unknown presses down upon his chest, making every breath a laborious struggle. His mind is instantly flooded with a chaotic montage of memories. Steffy's defiant smile, her fierce dedication to her children, her unwavering loyalty to the Forrester legacy, and the simple, profound bond they share. The thought of her being lost to the cold, dark waters of the sea is a psychological torment so profound that it strips away his authoritative facade, leaving behind only a broken, desperate father begging the universe for a miracle. However, in the cutthroat world of the bold and the beautiful, a moment of profound vulnerability is rarely left unexploited. While the entire Forrester family is thrust into a chaotic spiral of panic, tears, and desperate prayers, one individual sees the dark clouds of tragedy not as a harbinger of doom, but as a miraculous, twisted stroke of luck. Ivy Forrester, a woman who has recently found herself backed into an inescapable corner of her own making, recognizes the shifting dynamics of power within the grieving family. To understand the sheer audacity of Ivy's next moves, one must look at the precarious situation she was in mere hours before the plane crash. Ivy had just been spectacularly exposed for her vile, manipulative scheme to permanently sever the romantic connection between Electra Forrester and Will Spencer. Ivy's hands were undeniably dirty. She had intentionally intercepted a heartfelt letter meant to reunite the young lovers at the Forster Gallery, effectively orchestrating their painful estrangement. When confronted with her treacherous actions, Ivy did not cower, nor did she offer a tearful apology. Instead, she stood her ground with a chilling lack of remorse, proudly declaring that she knew what was best for her niece and that she would commit the exact same betrayal again if given the opportunity. This unapologetic stance had ignited a fiery wrath within Electra, who immediately marched to the executive suite, delivering a non-negotiable ultimatum to Steffy and Ridge. Either Ivy is immediately terminated and banished from Forster Creations, or Electra herself would walk away from the company forever. Steffy, known for her no-nonsense approach to toxic family drama, was poised to drop the proverbial axe. Ivy's career, her reputation, and her standing within the family were on the absolute brink of total annihilation. Then, the plane went down. The impending termination was instantly overshadowed by a life-or-death crisis of unimaginable proportions. For Ivy, the horrifying news of Steffi's disappearance over the Mediterranean was not a source of paralyzing grief, but rather a sudden, unexpected pardon from the governor. Instead of utilizing this somber time to reflect on her own moral failings or to offer genuine, selfless support to a grieving family, Ivy's Machiavellian instincts kick into overdrive. She calculates the board with the cold precision of a chess grandmaster. With Steffy missing and presumed dead, and Ridge utterly incapacitated by his overwhelming sorrow, a massive power vacuum has suddenly opened at the very top of Forster Creations. Ivy realizes that if she can position herself as the indispensable, steady hand guiding the ship through this catastrophic storm, she can permanently secure her position and render Electra's demand for her termination completely irrelevant. The sheer psychological complexity of Ivy's opportunism is staggering. She does not slink away into the shadows to avoid detection. She boldly strides directly into the epicenter of the family's pain. Ivy approaches Ridge in his most shattered, vulnerable state. She finds him staring blankly out the expansive windows of the CEO office, his eyes red and swollen, his spirit crushed under the agonizing weight of his daughter's unknown fate. With a meticulously crafted expression of deep empathy and unwavering strength, Ivy steps up to the plate. She softly places a comforting hand on Ridge's trembling shoulder, offering him words of profound solace that mask her true, underlying ambitions. She assures him that he does not need to worry about the day-to-day operations of the fashion house. She volunteers to take on the crushing burdens of Forster Creations, to manage the intricate supply chains, to handle the demanding press inquiries, and to keep the company's heart beating while Ridge focuses entirely, unequivocally, on the international search and rescue efforts for Steffy. It is a masterful, deeply sinister performance. Ivy is utilizing the very tragedy that has brought her family to its knees as a stepping stone to elevate her own status. She is presenting herself not as the manipulative schemer who recently destroyed her niece's happiness, but as the only reliable, capable, and devoted family member left standing in the office. She is weaving a narrative in which her presence is absolutely essential for the survival of the Forster legacy during its darkest hour. Ridge, blinded by his excruciating pain and physically exhausted from the adrenaline and terror coursing through his veins, is entirely susceptible to her manipulation. He is desperately grasping for any semblance of stability in a world that has just been violently turned upside down. He had recently warned Ivy about the dangers of meddling, explicitly comparing her toxic interference to the painful history of his mother, Stephanie Forster. But in this moment of acute crisis, those warnings evaporate into the ether. Ridge cannot see the venomous snake offering him an apple. He only sees a lifeline being thrown to him while he is drowning in an ocean of grief. Watching this grotesque display of opportunistic manipulation unfold from the sidelines is Electra Forster, and her reaction is one of pure, unadulterated revulsion. The emotional whiplash Electra is experiencing is incredibly severe. On one hand, She is deeply traumatized by the terrifying news of Steffy's plane crash. She is mourning the potential loss of her cousin, terrified for Steffy's children, and praying for a miraculous rescue. On the other hand, her blood is boiling with a righteous, furious indignation as she witnesses her Aunt Ivy executing the most despicable, self-serving pivot imaginable. Electra knows exactly who Ivy is. She knows the depths of Ivy's deceit, the coldness of her heart, and the sheer lack of remorse she possesses. To see Ivy parading around the executive offices, issuing orders, and playing the role of the tragic, supportive heroine is a psychological violation that Electra simply cannot stomach. The tension between the grieving niece and the opportunistic aunt escalates into a silent, venomous war within the walls of the fashion house. Electra is painfully aware that Ivy is using Steffy's presumed demise as a convenient shield to deflect the consequences of her own actions. The ultimatum Electra had delivered, the demand for Ivy's immediate firing, has been completely derailed by the aviation disaster. Electra finds herself trapped in an agonizing moral dilemma. How can she continue to scream for justice regarding her sabotage relationship with Will Spencer when the entire family is agonizing over whether Steffy is dead or alive? To push the issue of Ivy's termination now would seem incredibly petty, selfish, and insensitive to Ridge's profound suffering. Yet, to remain silent is to allow a sociopathic opportunist to steal the reins of the family empire. Unable to contain her boiling rage, Electra finally corners Ivy in the dimly lit corridors of the Forrester design wing, far away from Ridge's oblivious eyes. The confrontation is explosive, fueled by weeks of accumulated betrayal and the raw, jagged emotions of the current family tragedy. Electra's voice trembles with a potent mixture of grief and disgust as she directly accuses Ivy of exploiting Steffy's horrific accident to save her own skin. She points an accusatory finger at her aunt, tearing down the facade of the helpful, devoted family member. Electra makes it abundantly clear that she sees right through Ivy's sickening performance, condemning her for using the agonizing uncertainty of Steffy's survival as a convenient distraction from her own impending professional execution. Ivy, however, remains entirely unfazed by Electra's passionate condemnation. The armor of her ambition is thick and impenetrable. She looks at her niece with a chilling, condescending calmness, refusing to yield an inch of ground. Ivy rationalizes her actions with a twisted, self-righteous logic. She argues that during a time of unprecedented crisis, the family must put aside their petty, personal grievances for the greater good of Forrester Creations. She claims that she is stepping up to protect the legacy that Steffy worked so hard to build, conveniently ignoring the fact that she is the very poison infecting the company from within. Ivy's refusal to acknowledge the moral bankruptcy of her actions only pours gasoline on the raging fire of Electra's hatred. The familial bond between them, already fractured by the intercepted letter and the ruined romance with Will, is now permanently, irrevocably shattered into dust. In the center of this toxic, swirling vortex of manipulation and fury stands Ridge Forrester, a man who is being slowly torn apart by forces entirely beyond his control. The noise of the office feud, the venomous whispers between Ivy and Electra, and the underlying tension of the corporate power struggle occasionally pierce through the heavy, suffocating fog of his grief. He is forced to confront an impossible, agonizing dilemma that no father or CEO should ever have to face. Electra's demands for justice still echo in the back of his mind, a lingering reminder of Ivy's undeniable treachery. He knows, deep down, that Ivy is a disruptive, manipulative force who has caused immense pain to the younger generation of his family. He knows that honoring Electra's ultimatum and firing Ivy is the morally correct course of action. Yet, the sheer logistical and emotional reality of his current situation makes that righteous path seem entirely impossible. Ridge is a man running on empty. His soul is tethered to the search and rescue boats navigating the choppy waters of the Mediterranean. Every time his phone rings, his heart stops, terrified that it will be the final, devastating confirmation of Steffy's passing. He simply does not have the emotional bandwidth, the physical energy, or the mental fortitude to engage in a messy, protracted corporate firing and the subsequent reorganization of the executive team. To cast Ivy out now would be to throw the office into further chaos at a time when he desperately needs stability. He needs someone to answer the emails, to manage the frantic press, and to keep the financial wheels turning while he prays for his daughter's life. This is the tragic, haunting paradox of Ridge's current existence. He is forced to make a deal with the devil simply because the devil is the only one offering to hold the crumbling roof over his head. By choosing to accept Ivy's calculated assistance, Ridge is inadvertently validating her opportunistic strategy. He is allowing the fox to guard the henhouse, prioritizing the immediate survival of the company over the ethical integrity of his family. It is a decision born of profound exhaustion and unimaginable sorrow, a choice that will undoubtedly have catastrophic, long-lasting consequences for everyone involved. As Ridge sits in the darkened CO office, staring at a framed photograph of a smiling Steffy, the shadows of deceit creep ever closer. Ivy stands victorious in the hallway, her career saved by the tragic misfortune of another, while Electra seethes in the background, vowing that justice will eventually be served. The Mediterranean Sea continues to hold its dark, terrifying secrets, and the Forrester family remains suspended in a state of agonizing purgatory, waiting for